Hi everyone, welcome to Talk Back. It's Friday the 13th. Okay, but it's a good Friday the 13th today. So here's the deal. I'm a senior, and I've been one for a while now. Okay, and guess what? Everyone out there is either a senior or you will be a senior. You're not going to get away from it, and so don't we need to know what's available to us as seniors in the community, the services that our government provides, that all kinds of agency provides? That's one of the things that I myself, person that pretty educated, I think, I don't know half of the stuff that's available for seniors in our community here in Eastern Connecticut. And it turns out I'm learning just like you need to learn. We had a show about Medicare earlier this week with Laura Cruz from the Senior Resources Agency here in Connecticut, in Eastern Connecticut, in Norwich actually. And today we have the executive director, I want to get it right, of the Senior Resources Agency on Aging of Eastern Connecticut, covering 56 towns and 2 tribal nations. She is Alison Dvorak. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's great to have you here. And I get to know Alison not just through the show, but I'm on the advisory board of the Senior Resources Council. And it's been opening my eyes these last couple of years because I've got, and Alison will talk about this, I've got 3-4 pages of just all of the, in small print, of all of the various programs that the Department of Aging in Connecticut and, of course, here in Eastern Connecticut has available. Alison says she's got more that is on this list from the state of Connecticut Department of Aging and Disability. So let's get started. We have a PowerPoint later where we'll kind of summarize everything that Alison's going to talk about. So first, let's talk about you, Alison. You've been with this agency for a while, and you also have academic credentials as a nurse, right?
Well, I'm a registered dietitian, and
Okay.
I've been a registered dietitian for about 30 years. I've been with the Agency on Aging for about 14 years, and my initial role with the agency was working as a registered dietitian, doing home visits with the Meals on Wheels participants throughout Eastern Connecticut. And I just, love everything about what we do as the agency, and I'll talk more about all of that today, but really working on all of the kinds of supports that help keep people living in their community is very important. And then when the previous executive director retired, I was selected as in that role about 1.5 years ago. So I've been the director of the agency for that period of time. But I also do teach at UConn, kind of a different role. I teach new dietitians in the assessment and working with older adults.
Everything is full. Your work as the executive director is full time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're an adjunct professor.
I'm an adjunct with UConn. I teach one class in the fall, but I find it to be so rewarding, working with younger people, and also to really bring them the perspective that it's great to work with older adults. It's a growing field because everybody's aging, thankfully, right? And there's great opportunities for working with older adults. But some of the programs that we do at Senior Resources and with the agencies on aging are before people, as people are aging. So a lot of our health and wellness depends on what we do before we're 60 or 65 or whatever the magic number is. So there's a lot of that work in how we make our later years great years.
Yeah, and we're growing as a percentage of the, I don't know, do you know what the percentage of the overall population in our country is of seniors? 20, it's high.
It's high, and it's growing.
And it's growing.
Yeah.
Because they always tell me now that the 80s are due 60 and 90s are due 70 and so forth. So our health is improving, and because of agencies like yours. So let's start from the very beginning. What is the Senior Resources Agency on Aging?
So we're the Senior Resources, we changed our name to Senior Resources instead of Eastern Connecticut Area Agency on Aging, which was our original title. We've been around for 50 years in Connecticut, and we are a private nonprofit, but we manage a lot of federal and state dollars that go into programs that support older adults in the community.
So let me go to the bottom of that. There's a connection between the federal government and the state of Connecticut, and then the local region, Eastern Connecticut, with your 56 towns and the 2 tribal areas. explain how all that works, how that works
Oh boy.
together.
So there's the Older Americans Act is the largest federal program that funds a lot of the services that we do, like the senior nutrition, the Meals on Wheels, a lot of the caregiver supports. So that federal funding does come into the state, and there's contracts and a lot, that kind of stuff as an attorney, but when it comes down to actually doing the work in the region, we have 5 agencies on aging in Connecticut, and I'm one of them here, and we manage the actual work that gets done in our region. And the state funding is so it's also part of the state budget. We meet with state legislators frequently, just had a meeting yesterday on how the state supports that. So some of the state funding comes from to support that as well. And we have some of our programs that are purely state funded, like the Dementia Respite Care Program is 100% state budget funded, and that helps to support someone who's taking care of a loved one with dementia in the home. So we're really focused on trying to keep people from needing a nursing home. Not that a nursing home's a bad place to be. They do a lot of great work, but for a lot of people, they want to stay living in their community as long as possible, and that's really our focus through all of that sort of funding. We also work with veterans programs, and much of the funding that comes in, some of that federal funding, comes right out and goes into some local senior centers for some of the programs that they run. There's some foot care, there's transportation, there's social work counseling, mental health counseling, a lot of different programs that we support. Also, that health education aspect. We have programs for chronic disease self-management and diabetes self-management and pain self-management. So it's so multifaceted, and we do have to kind of weave together the funding so that we can make sure that we use it all as efficiently and effectively to cover all of that region.
So you say there are 5. So do they correspond to the congressional districts in Connecticut? You said there were 5 in Connecticut.
I don't know if they correspond to the congressional districts as much. There's so much overlap we talk about this with so many different teams that we work on. We collaborate with so many different agencies, Department of Public Health and
Right.
Emergency
So
responders and everything else.
It's a sprawling.
And everybody's
thing.
map is a little bit different. Yeah, the lines are always a little bit.
So there's a lot that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so the question always becomes, you're talking now, and I'm sure you do many other programs of outreach. How do you get the word out so that people like me and other seniors know all the various programs that are out there for them?
Yeah, it's really a challenge, and I think we're making headway in that. Thankful that a lot more people are becoming technologically savvy or following on Facebook, and of course we have all of those social media components. But we also do a lot of education to people of not being privy to fraud or abuse, so you got to make sure you're looking at a reliable source. Interestingly, when people approach the Medicare age, they get sent that Medicare and You book in the mail, and the phone number on the back of that takes you to your area agency on aging, because we do all manage the choices or health information
and everyone
program.
in this country at age 65 must get on Medicare.
Yeah.
So that's an impetus
So that's
to
a way.
start getting educated on
Right,
this
that's a
stuff.
way. But we found a lot of times of course we have again these networks, so all of the visiting nurses and the senior centers and a lot of people that do work with older adults, they do know to make a referral to us if it's a program. But people change jobs. You're always trying to retrain somebody else in the process.
So that's important, what you just said. So people can learn about it themselves when they're starting into the age 65 Medicare program. People can be referred by a physician, by a hospital, maybe by a pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
People can get information through their friends. So there are, for the senior centers.
Yep.
Maybe libraries. So there are a lot of community places where hopefully they have the resources available. They know this is who you should call for this or that
Right.
issue.
We actually get a lot of word of mouth referrals. So, if we've worked with a client on, whatever their concern or issue was, they generally, have a very positive experience, and they tell their friends, and so on and so on.
So the question is, I guess, and these are statistics which you may not know, what is the senior community population in your district? And how many are you reaching? How many are you serving? I guess you know how many you're serving.
Yes, well, we're serving people in so many different programs, and sometimes people may touch on more than one program at a time. And I was just talking about this yesterday, but we serve about 20,000 people in a year in one way, shape, or form. But some of that interaction is very varied. It could be a call in just for information and referral, like, oh, is there senior housing in my town? And then we connect them with yes or no there is, and how do you reach it? Or it could be a very involved process of, helping them with a Medicaid application and discussing, advanced care directives, and the caregiver needs support and getting a plan of care in the home, and, a whole lot of other things. So there's tremendous ways to come up with that number, and I think that's a great point to work on it in different ways, because there's so many ways.
People in Connecticut, and 1/5 of that would be 600,000. But then how many seniors?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can try it. So 20,000 might be a good number, but I'm sure there are people that are falling
through the cracks and don't know about it, or maybe they're hearing about it in other ways. But what's really what is truly not what people think about us is that our services are about aging, and it's not always about income. And so the Older Americans Act programs are for people that are 60 and older, and it doesn't necessarily relate to their income.
60. It's not 65.
Yeah, older. Yeah, and there's so many different ages.
Act so, and we sometimes think of the seniors at 55. You get to be senior.
And then the dementia one goes at 55, and then the caregivers can be any age if they're taking care of somebody that's older.
But this is a very important point.
And then we have grandparents who are raising grandchildren.
If you have a good income, you have resources, you still can be eligible for many of the programs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's very important, because I think people who of means may not realize that.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So I know we're going to show us on a PowerPoint some of these things, but I want you to talk about what you consider the most important. I guess every program is important, but the ones that you want to highlight as being effective, and ones that are very important to you and the community.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think our newest one, we've actually put a title on service navigation, and this was, we were able to advocate for this through the state budget funding.
What is service navigation?
So service navigation is basically a highly trained people that can help people with really complex situations. Because what we find is the phone calls that come in, sometimes it is that very simple, is there senior housing in my town? Can you tell me how to reach it? And that's just kind of, okay, we helped you and you're good. But a lot of times it's very complex situations. It's, a wheelchair that is broken, and you can't, Medicare declines a payment for a new device, and the caregiver is on oxygen and can't make it to their doctor's appointment, and nobody's cooking healthy meals, and the blood sugars are all over the place. That's usually what we get, is a very complex situation with a lot of details that need assistance. And so we advocated to say the service navigation component, we need to be able to spend a little more time and effort and energy with the people that need these more in-depth services. And so we found that to be incredibly successful. Those people certainly do know how to connect these individuals based on whatever their issue is. You just can't, there's no one answer as to what issue comes in as a concern, but they can connect them to what they qualify for. So if there's a play of dementia in there, maybe they get some additional support through the Alzheimer's respite program. Or you might end up with somebody at an adult day center for a day, and that helps to resolve some of their issues. Or getting them connected with Meals on Wheels in their area. So that's one less thing that a family caregiver has to do as far as preparing a meal. So it's so varied that we found that that's the best way to really meet those needs of those individuals. So we are feeling strongly that that's going to be a great case. The other thing that was kind of a challenge that led to the service navigation position was that a lot of our programs that are through the Older Americans Act require somebody to have a caregiver in their life. So not a caregiver like a paid nurse or anything, but just, a husband taking care of a wife, or an adult child who's checking in on aunt so-and-so. They don't have to be, giving them a shower or, hands-on care, but they care. They're involved, they're watching.
Yeah.
And so those programs require that person to have a caregiver. Now, there are people that are aging in Connecticut that don't really have anybody that they would call as a caregiver. They're kind of alone. And so those people were kind of falling through the cracks a little bit too as to how can we help them? And so that service navigation piece really figures out how can we help them, because a lot of times it is maybe helping them with the Medicaid application. That's a pretty complex form, especially if somebody's maybe it's not their first language, or they weren't a great student, or there's a lot of literacy issues. So that's a great program that I really feel kind of sums up a lot of what we do, but still supports back to all of the other programs that we do.
Okay, so that's one. What do you find in your work are the most unmet needs that you want to work on?
Wow.
I mean, we can talk about some of the other programs, but
Yeah.
what do you think the most unmet needs are?
Well, it's an interesting, number one, probably, well, I can't even say number one, because they really run close and it depends a little bit on the region. But transportation and housing are tremendous needs for people as they age. And we find this, with everybody. I mean, I'm myself included. I don't know that I'll be able to stay in the home that I'm living in as I age, because it's got stairs and everything else. I did renovate it to have a bathroom on the first floor with a shower, but a lot of people haven't done that, and they're living in this family home that maybe they raised their children in and they love it and they're very connected. But, if the laundry's down in the basement and you might need some help getting around in there. So housing that meets those needs, or making modifications to people's housing, it's not all subsidized housing. So I think sometimes that gets confused, in that we do need more subsidized housing, because it helps to make an affordable rent for a senior to pay, because in that case they pay 1/3 of whatever their income is. So if they're relying purely on their Social Security income and it's $1,800, then their rent's going to be 1/3 of that. So it makes all the rest of their
But that's
expenses.
subsidized that. And you keep making the point, and we should make it over and over again, that you don't have to need subsidization, that you can have means of your own and still be eligible for a lot of these programs.
Oh, for a lot of other programs, yes.
Okay.
For subsidized housing, you do have to meet some income guidelines,
sure.
yeah. But to that, housing that is not subsidized, that also is age friendly, or aging and disability friendly, we're really looking at anybody who has a little bit of mobility issues. Where can they live comfortably and get in and out? And even, maybe you have a friend who has mobility issues. Can they come over and visit you? And so it's just a little bit more of like making all the places we live a little bit more accessible to everybody, I think would be a huge benefit. And then for transportation, Eastern Connecticut is very dependent on, if you don't have a car, it's really hard to get where you're going. Yeah. And if you've not lived your life taking buses, or and if you've not yet used Uber or any of those types of ride
Uber's
services,
not even in some areas in Connecticut.
then it's a challenge, right? So especially up in the northeastern region, the Windham County region, we have a lot of challenges up there. So a lot of our, we try to utilize our funding in ways that can help support transportation, and there's a lot of great work being done, but it's hard to say that it's meeting all of the needs. So there's certainly the need for people to have transportation to get to the places they need to go, and then also making them aware of some of the services that can get to them so that they don't have to drive out to that. I mean, you look at something like delivered groceries. If somebody didn't have transportation to get to the grocery store, could they utilize that service? And it's not available everywhere, but
so of course I think of the movement to have senior citizens, and we have some beautiful senior citizen centers in many of the towns in your district, and they offer transportation and a lot of different programs. So I want to know, what is the connection and the outreach between your agency and the senior centers of Eastern Connecticut, because they can offer a lot of information about the resources that you have available, right? How does that work?
Yep, we work closely, very, very closely together, and to that point of that, some of the programs that they're offering are potentially they're getting supplemental funding through us. We also do a lot of outreach and training. So a person that works at a senior center and may provide one-on-one assistance on questions about Medicare, for example, they got trained by our office to be able to do that kind of work with them.
You have a photo. I want to let's show that. So there's a senior resources brochure
that might be two of them
that you can get that lists. Oh my goodness!
No,
you got two.
That's two. Yep.
So this is the brochure that you can get, and your address in Connecticut is what?
19 Ohio Avenue, Suite 2. We're in the Norwich Industrial Park.
Here.
But what I like to, show with that, I don't know if you're showing yours, maybe flip yours over. But
all the towns.
Yeah, it shows all the towns, because a lot of times when people hear our address, they think the only way we're going to help them is if they come to us in Norwich. And that's absolutely not the case. You're welcome to come. We have a very nice office, but we also go out to senior centers and actually do a little mini office setup there at those places, or a library, or senior housing, or sometimes in people's homes. But a lot of times we can handle the questions over the phone, or we do a lot of Zoom, or those kind of meetings as well. But there's no reason to not ask a question. We're here to help with all of that.
Right. And the phone number, we should probably put it on the screen if we can, 860-887-3561.
Yes.
Right? 860-887-3561. And your mission statement is, your agency provides access to information and services to empower adults to live with dignity.
Exactly.
Yes. And then I guess we're going to go over these in some of our discussions with our PowerPoint. But this brochure, is this available at senior centers and libraries and areas where people can find them?
Yep. And if it isn't, we're happy to send some over to fill that need.
Okay.
And it's also available on our website, and our website is Senior Resources EC for Eastern Connecticut.org.
Okay. Let's turn to the PowerPoint, the slides that Alison has brought today, so we can get into a little bit more detail. Okay.
Great. Yeah. So my contact information is down there for Senior Resources, which I just said, the seniorresourcesec.org. And as an agency on aging, I'm also going to be discussing a little bit of what covers all of the agencies on aging, and working together as 5 agencies with one vision. We call ourselves Aging CT.
So now you are an MS. Is that a master's in?
Yeah, I have a master's degree in nutrition science, and I'm a registered dietitian and
what's
certified
RDN?
Registered dietitian, nutritionist.
And what's CDN?
CDN is the certification that you need to practice as a dietitian in Connecticut.
Okay. So we figured
the registered is the national, and the.
Okay.
I'm also an EMT and a couple other things.
Okay. All right, let's
get the alphabet soup.
Let's go back to this slide.
So I like to point out that all of the AAAs, the area agencies on aging in Connecticut, are local. Even though we cover 56 towns, is a big region, but we are local to those 56 towns, and we are a private nonprofit. So we are, not making money on this. We are moving the money right back out into services that help people to continue to live in their community. So that's the contact information for each of the different agencies on aging. People always say, wow, it's such a big area of Connecticut that Eastern is considered, because it is all of Windham County, all of New London County, all of Middlesex County, and then a couple of towns in Tolland, which I don't know how they talk about the
but
maps.
But in general, we're the least populated, so that's why you have a big area to cover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is a lovely picture of our staff from maybe last year's open house, but we're small but mighty. We have now we have 22 people on our staff, and that includes social workers and registered dietitians and a lot of outreach workers, then people with specialized training in health counseling. And it's kind of an interesting thing when you think about how long we've been working with older adults and the questions that come up. And sometimes the people that are calling into us, this is their first time experiencing that. So if it's your first time looking for transportation for your mom, this is your first time thinking about it. We've kind of been through this a lot of different times over the years. So the experience level of our staff is really tremendous, and we have a lot of people that stay a long time. They love working with our agency. They love what they do. They love helping people. So they stay and connect with people.
What about the community? Explain that relationship.
Yep.
All of that.
So we do, to be able to cover all of these local areas throughout 56 towns, we connect with other people that work with older adults in all of those 56 towns. One of the ways is the M teams, which is a multidisciplinary team. They meet monthly and they meet in a location but also on Zoom. And that's focused on elder justice. That's focused on preventing elder abuse. So a lot of ways to do, because everybody, things come up and you're like, well, what do we do about this? If it's something that you'd call the police for, of course you do that. But a lot of times it's that lingering, somebody's kind of taking advantage of somebody, or maybe they're not taking care of themselves. There's, neglect.
That may not need police intervention, but it needs some kind of therapy or some kind of family intervention.
And these programs that we can offer can actually help with making their lives better, still keeping them in their community.
But you do know how, I know that the Attorney General now has a hotline.
Yes.
And we, in Safe Futures, the organization that I work with about elder abuse, we have a hotline number that you can call for serious elder abuse and financial scamming, which is a huge problem now.
Huge problem.
But you know who to call.
Yep.
You know who to
and I think it's the network of professionals that work in this industry so that we know each other too. So that, this one could be helped by this, and that's what the M team is really about. Is when a municipal agent in a small town, maybe they don't have a lot of resources to help with that in their small town, but now talking about it with the M teams, they can really strategize and say, okay, how can I connect to these things that cover in those small towns? They just don't, come exactly from that small town. But so it's a lot of networks that we work with to help connect, all over with that. And we try to do a lot of outreach.
Yeah. So what about some of these other community things that are listed on that? Can we go back to that slide? Oh, there's a number.
Phone numbers, yeah. We do. We did a lot of we're just wrapping up the farmers market outreach. So we've been at a lot of. Jill and Claudia have been out at a lot of farmers markets. We help distribute the Senior Farmer Market Nutrition Program cards. So for people that are income eligible for that, they get $50 on a card that they go to spend at a farmers market. And we've been able to set up informational tables at a lot of those markets to talk with folks and just kind of see what questions come up, no matter if they're participating in that particular program or just see us and have a question about anything. And we do all kinds of outreach and educational programs, including the chronic disease, self-management, diabetes. And we've gotten onto all of the ways to try to connect with people, like LinkedIn and YouTube and the websites and the social medias. We are not on TikTok though, but other than that, I think we're everywhere else we could be.
And then you already talked about your website and Facebook and all the social media. And I probably was not complete in my introduction when I said everybody will become a senior eventually. But this is also for the caregivers, for the sons, the daughters, the spouses, the friends, the neighbors of people who are aging, who need help, who need resources. You need to know this information too. Very important. Yes.
Absolutely. I kind of joke sometimes with people, because nobody wants to admit that they're aging. Right? I said, but do you know somebody who's aging? So maybe we can help you with some of that information.
I'm just asking for a friend.
Yes, exactly.
What would you do? Just a friend's question. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Let's go on with the PowerPoint.
So this is just kind of a little graphic about how it happens when you call to our agency. What happens to you? So you would call in either through our phone numbers, and this applies to all agencies on aging. But you connect with us, and then we can provide that general, quick answer kind of stuff, or if you know specifically which program you heard about that you want to talk with our specialist on it, we do that, and then we assist with any of the applications and further work that needs to happen with that. Sometimes it gets to the point of being with our service navigator if it's multifaceted or complex, and then we continue to follow up with people afterwards, which is kind of an important part of it too, is that did that work okay? Is everything complete with this? Right. Sometimes these programs take a little time to get fully involved. So,
right. So let's follow it. So I have an issue with my elderly aunt, and I want to see what kinds of resources your program can offer. So that's a community referral. I just call you.
Yep, you'd call in.
Yeah, I look on your website, and I call you. What is the state partner? That's another agency that.
Well, there's also a number at the state, so if people went to like the ct.gov,
right.
They usually
would
refer people
now
back
I
out
come,
to us too.
And then, so who do I talk to the first time if I call?
You'd probably talk to, depending on what you say you're looking for your aunt, if you said anything specific, or if you just said I need help with my aunt, you might go to our information and referral specialist, and she would kind of field, okay, what are you looking for? What town does your aunt live in? Because sometimes that helps us hone in on what services are available in that region, and then they would help you with whatever information you might need to make that happen, or they would connect you kind of like a warm transfer to another specialist that may be more in depth if it was like you were going to apply to the National Family Caregiver Support.
So the people
to get
who are answering the phone, they themselves know about the resources available. They know who to connect you to.
Yes.
They will. And what did you mean by triage? I don't know if everybody understands what that is.
So that's kind of like seeing, taking the information in and kind of assessing where does it need to go, and also how maybe a priority level of the issues, because somebody might come in with 6 different issues, but one of them is really important and needs to be taken care of immediately, and that gets put to the top of the focus.
Okay. And then, okay.
So this kind of shows that as Aging CT, we were able to do a really great statewide survey of what do people like, what are they looking for, what do they need, and when we use the term long-term care supports and services, sometimes people think nursing home, right? When you say long-term care, you think nursing home, but what we're really referring to is long-time care in your home. So sometimes
that's the goal.
That's the goal.
So you don't have to leave your home.
Yes, exactly. So if somebody's had a knee replacement, perhaps they go to a rehab facility for a week or 2, and it's covered by Medicare. But Medicare does not cover a skilled nursing facility long term. And even if they've got discharged from that rehab facility, they did great with their PT and everything else, then they go to their home and they may still have some Medicare covered supports in the home for a short period of time. But sometimes people may always need help with a shower. They may always need some, help with maintaining their home and person in a way. And those are the long-term supports that we can help with, either through the Family Caregiver Support Program, the Dementia Respite Program, or by helping them transfer onto the home care program.
Let's talk about the Dementia Respite Program. I think that's very, very important, because caregivers sometimes get sick themselves from taking care of the people that they're worried about.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the benefits that a caregiver can get through that program?
So there's lots of things that we end up covering, but sometimes it's the adult day center care. So an adult day center is not a senior center. It's a specialized location that has a nurse on staff, and it's for people with dementia. They just go there for the day, and they have specialized cognitive stimulation programs for them. They have fun. They have snacks. They eat lunch. They play music. They
and it's in their local. Would be in their local. How many are there in your district?
There are 3. So we need more.
They would be given transportation.
Yes, and they have transportation to them, and they have somebody could go for like 1 day a week, or they could go for 5 days a week. There is a fee to it. Our programs can help to support that. We can't pay the whole load of it, but it's a real great help for people, so that if you're caring for somebody with dementia, they're well taken care of. You've got these other supports in place, and you can go do what you need to do.
Doesn't want to go, or refuses to go.
No, sometimes they don't, and so then other times it's an in-home support. So sometimes people with dementia have a real challenge with showering. It can get to be a very hard time for a caregiver to do that role, and so maybe it's paying for a paid home health aide to come in and do that.
And what about
care?
Giving the caregiver a break for a day, several hours, even a weekend? Is there any part of the program that would do that?
Yes, absolutely. So there's times when, so maybe the family has a big event going on and they need a week where that person's taken care of, so we actually would pay for them to stay in a long-term care facility.
Wow, that's a great program. And I wonder how many people are not aware of that.
Yeah.
Because caregivers think that they are
alone.
indispensable.
Yeah. Well, and caregivers, especially, caregivers, and I think especially those that are caring for somebody with dementia, when they first come to us, or when I've seen them in other environments, they feel so isolated, like nobody else is going through this. Yeah. And that's not the case. A lot of people are going through it. So that's another component of those programs, is the support groups that help people.
Right.
So that's, whether you're getting paid services or not.
The caregivers are too busy with their own careers, maybe they have a family besides the person they're caring for. They don't have time to go to a support group.
I know. But sometimes they do, or we've actually had them where they can be virtual groups, so it's easier to do from home. And there's trainings involved in that as well. So there's, basically a little class on how to be a caregiver of someone, all the paperwork that you kind of need to work through.
So I imagine, as we're living longer, dementia is in some ways almost an inevitable. As the longer you live, the greater the chances are it would happen. This must be a really growing program. The need for this is
growing, yes, right? The need is growing. The challenges that we're facing a lot of times are in the funding, in that there was a lot of ARPA funding for programs.
What ARPA was, that
American
was
Rescue Recovery
Plan. Yeah. That was as a result of COVID where
money. Mm-hmm.
funds were allocated, and communities are now, even just now, figuring out how to finally spend what was allocated to them, right?
Correct. A lot of it is phasing out right as we speak.
Yeah.
And so some of that actually went to programs like the Alzheimer's Respite Program or National Family Caregiver, which was lovely. It was really helpful. It was really great. But what we're challenged with now is that the need is still there, but we're going to have less funds to be able to provide those services. So that's a challenge that we face as an agency, and looking at, how can we still do a lot of great work with.
So budgeting must be a big issue.
It's
a huge issue, right?
It is, yeah.
And as a nonprofit, are you allowed to have fundraising programs?
Yes. Yep. So we do have fundraising. Our board and our advisory council members are volunteers, and they manage that a lot for us, because as employees of the agency, the funding that supports our roles, we can't fundraise through.
That, right.
But we have a lovely board and advisory council, and we're always looking for more people to be on our board and advisory as well. Especially, we love the Southeast region, absolutely, but we are always really looking to get more people that can represent the opinions and thoughts of the Northeast region, the Windham County and also the Middlesex County.
Right.
And our meetings are held, with a virtual option, so people don't always have to drive into Norwich for them. We really like that viewpoint of people that live in those regions and see those needs. Maybe they've experienced something to do with aging, maybe they've cared for someone, maybe not. And we're also always like for people that maybe are aging themselves and will admit to it, because it really brings to light the needs of a lot of various people. So yeah, we're always looking for people for that. But I wanted to, maybe we'll go back to our slides.
Let's go
back
to that slide.
I'll touch on a lot of those programs. The
you.
Connecticut, that was our survey. And what we found in that survey is a lot of people did, if they connected with us, they felt like they were really helped. This is just really a list of a lot of those service programs, and I just want to make sure that I touch on all of them and see them in front of me.
Well, let's go down just quickly each one. Medicare Education Outreach Assistance. So we had Laura Cruz on.
You had Laura.
She is great, and then she also talked about choices, which is the ability to go and get a counselor to talk to you about your needs in Medicare and the different plans and the options that you have, without telling you what to do, but giving you the information.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And we love that that's free, unbiased. So we're never selling anything. We're not insurance agents. We are just we have to review all the programs and give you some choices to choose from. It's your choice. And we don't get anything based on which one you
Right. And as we
choose.
mentioned with Laura, the important thing is to know what your health needs are, because that would be important in deciding which of the Medicare types of programs you would join. You have to join A and B, but how do you go about the rest of all the benefits available? You need to know not just what Laura is going to tell you, what the agency will tell you, but your own health needs, how that fits in.
And it's different, from in a married couple. The two people may need
Exactly.
different plans.
My
based-
husband and
they're
I
two different
each have a different plan. So
exactly.
yes, absolutely.
Or what
yes.
works for your neighbor may
so
not work for you.
This is we talked about
Yep.
caregiver support and respite. We mentioned that.
Yep. And the
This is
grandparent.
another crucial. I think I don't know how many millions of grandparents in this country are actually raising their grandchildren,
Yes.
not just grandparent support and respite. Is that what it is? Because they're raising their children.
Yes, this is for grandparents that are, or other relatives. It could be an aunt or an uncle
Okay.
or anything, that are raising a child that's
And again,
not
this
theirs.
is not based on financial need.
No,
This is based on the issue.
it's just whatever happened
This
in that
is so
family.
crucial because I think a lot of people think, oh, that agency run by the state must be for people who don't have the means. I really believe, Alison, you've got to emphasize that over and over again, that everyone is eligible for many of these programs,
Exactly.
despite their financial resources.
Right.
Okay, very
Right.
important.
Yep. And that support has been, it's tremendous. Again, there's a support group to it, so that you can realize that you're not the only one going through this, right? Which is very important for somebody. They think
So besides the
nobody
support
else is
group,
doing
what
this.
other specific?
And then there is funding to pay for what will give that grandparent a respite. So sometimes we pay to send a child to camp in the summer, or
Again, regardless of resources.
there's a little bit
there might
about
be some of
resources
that.
there, but the support is always there. And we have several participants who, are maybe very wealthy, and they just really enjoy that support of that other people are going through this, the challenges that they face. But we paid recently for one child to take driving lessons and sporting equipment. None of that's easy. And when you think about, especially an older adult, now jumping into this role of taking care of someone they love, and that's, they're saving that kid's life, really, by giving them a supportive home, which is wonderful. But they weren't expecting that cost of all of the things that have to go along with kids. So it's very helpful that way for them. And I think it's just so keen to know that they're not the only one doing it, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. We talked about this a lot with the elder abuse component too, and reporting things. We'd really love for more older adults to just, share their story of it, because a lot of people are going through the same thing and can maybe find help in different ways. But so that's that one. But
All right,
the
so
supplemental supplies.
What's that?
So that's through those caregiver support funding. Sometimes it's incontinence supplies, because that's not covered by Medicare. It is covered by Medicaid, but
Right. But
depends.
Medicaid, you need the financial piece.
That's the financial piece. We also do some of the emergency response systems that people need, so that the caregiver knows that the loved one could hit the button if they needed help.
Are those
or had
available with financial assistance for people
Yes.
who can't afford them?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. How much would they cost? Something
They
like
run
that?
around $30 to $40 a month.
A month. So that's that's expensive for some people.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of variations in the technology there. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But some of the other supplemental stuff, it's just things that aren't covered in that way. But it could be modifications to the home, getting grab bars placed into the shower, or raised toilet seats,
Okay.
just things that
So
aren't
that's
covered.
the supplemental.
Covered by
Okay,
insurance.
let's go back to see. I want to go through the list.
Yeah.
The nutrition program. How does
Yep.
that work?
So that's the seniors. A lot of the senior centers have a meal program that's it's a healthy meal that people 60 and over can go, and it's a donation only.
And where do
payment.
they go?
So if most local seniors have a lunch program going on the days that they're open, or at least one
You're
a
talking
couple
about
of
in the
days a
senior
week.
center
At
itself?
the senior
Okay.
center itself, yep. And what's nice about that is it's a healthy meal. It meets the dietary guidelines for Americans, so it's not high in sodium or salt. It's good for people with diabetes, and it is only a donation request to that. And same thing with the home delivered meals. People who can't get out to those congregate sites, aren't driving or whatever, they qualify, and their spouse would as well.
And the Benefits Enrollment Center, is that any program I need? You're going to help me fill everything out?
Yep,
You're gonna
and also do the screening for it. So if you just want to say, check me out, see what I
See what you're eligible
yeah,
for.
see what I'm eligible for, we can do that as well. And we also, for people who go to our website, we have a link to that to a program through the National Council on Aging that you can do it yourself as well. And you're not putting in any real identifying information. You do put in your zip code because they need to know,
Right.
you know, kind of where it relays in. But you can do it that way. But we also have a person who will help you with that and help you with any application.
Who fits the qualification of being over 60, right? It's not.
Yep. Well, those
is
you
it
can even
60?
go. Some of them are younger.
Okay.
So I'd say
you can do it online, fill out some questionnaire, and it will give you back what programs you might be eligible for.
Right, and it's also very nice. So say, you know, I live here in Connecticut, and I actually did this for my in-laws lived in Rhode Island, and I would assume they have a lot of the similar services that we do, right? But I could do that for them there. Or if your aunt lives in California, as long as you know her zip code, you can put in the information and find out it'll tell you exactly how would she sign up for Meals on Wheels, or how would they connect with transportation, or how would they get family caregivers.
Telling me that regardless of your financial resources, you should become part of this community and take advantage of the services that are available to you.
I think so.
Especially the support services.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, tell us about veterans-directed care. What is that?
Yeah, veterans-directed care is a really wonderful program, obviously for veterans, and it's for veterans that are receiving their health care at the VA, and the VA then says, we want to pay for your home health services, and then they actually can hire who they want as their care provider, and it could be even their spouse, or it could be their adult child. So a lot of other programs you can't necessarily pay your spouse or through them, but that one you can. And we help them coordinate that process of managing their employees, whoever they might be. They might be the kid that lives down the street, or a stay-at-home mom that has time during the day that can come and help do those services. So it helps to meet the need of providing the care to them and keep them in their community, and it's an efficient way of using the veteran funding.
Now, the Senior Medicare Patrol, I did a show with Christine Foster, and it's all about identifying Medicare fraud and the importance of Medicare recipients knowing how to look at your bills as they come through, and to see, and that Medicare fraud is a huge multi-trillion-dollar program in this country.
Yeah, it's shocking how much fraud is happening in Medicare. It's over $2 billion or six.
I say trillion, but $2 billion is good enough.
Well, at least but the best way to see it is for a Medicare beneficiary to look at their explanation benefits,
see what
because that's where
services
it's
are
going to
listed
show up.
that maybe they didn't get, or the tests that they listed they didn't get, or the diagnosis that was done improperly. And I think I learned so much by talking to Christine about this, and we talked about it on June 5th, which is 6/5, the anniversary of Medicare, which was established in 1965. So that was how they did that. They had a special week of Medicare fraud prevention, something like that. That was really important, because I get those forms every month, and I really don't pay especially if I don't have I have a lot of services. Somebody could be putting stuff on my account that I'm not aware of, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes people don't think it's a big deal because they're not paying money. It's not saying I have to give you my credit card. It's just that it billed on your Medicare. But now if Medicare paid it, then Medicare lost money.
Right.
And if Medicare loses money, we all lose money.
Exactly.
So
I
it
think
is
we
very
don't
important.
appreciate that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a couple more on the list that I want to go through.
Yeah.
And that's all. This is not a comprehensive list.
Oh, no, this is just some highlights.
This is some highlights.
I touched on the farmers market.
You touched on the important one,
things,
the farmers market you mentioned.
And the Money Follows the Person is a great
Nutrition
program for people that are in a nursing home and have applied to Medicaid. But then if they don't need the level of care at a nursing home, they can actually transition out to an apartment in the community and have wraparound services that are paid by Medicaid. So that's a very special, nuanced program, but for people who are in a nursing home.
Money follows the person,
there are ways of finding that support. The Farmers Market Nutrition Program is still running till the end of October, but that's additional funding from the USDA, Department of Agriculture, for getting, it's great. It's money that goes into the local farmers' bank account, but it's vegetables and produce that go into
Yeah.
the local seniors' bodies, which is fantastic. We do a lot of nutrition education and counseling through the senior nutrition program. And then the congregate housing services program is a few specialized senior housing locations where we have a resident services coordinator and funding for some of the services that those people need. So that's through
Okay.
the Department of Housing. And then service navigation I already talked about.
Talked about that.
Yeah, so we can go to the next slide. And that kind of touches on a lot of those caregiver support programs and the supplemental services, but also the service navigator, in that they often find the person who doesn't have a caregiver and still needs to connect to some supports and helps.
You talked about the in-home services and adult day care for clients with dementia diagnosis. A National Family Caregiver, what is that?
That's for people, very similar program, but for people who don't have a diagnosis of dementia. So it might be, you're just caring for someone because, they have limited mobility, or they...
So there are other issues besides dementia.
Sure, exactly. And that grandparent support program kind of falls under the National Family Caregiver as well. And then we love to do outreach and discussion like this. We do run a lot of programs that are evidence-based health education, which, like I said, were the chronic disease and the diabetes and the pain self-management. Those are 6-week classes that were developed at Stanford University, and I've taken them myself and I've been a leader in them. They are so fascinating in that, you think about when you go see your doctor, you spend 15 minutes maybe with your doctor, and the rest of the time it's up to you. Are you going to walk? Are you going to take your medicine on time? Are you going to eat the right foods? It's up to you. And that's what the self-management programs really coach people through, is how to get there. And we have a new one coming up to start in October that is on incontinence, especially in women, a little bit of urinary continence or other things. And a lot of times that people don't talk about it. But
yes, you don't want to. People don't want to talk about that.
But it happens, and it impacts people's lives, so that they're not going out and socializing, or they're not, participating in things that they would really love to do. And so the class actually has really great impact on little training exercises and coaching, and looking at how you take in your food and your fluids and everything. There's a lot of strategies that can really help.
Right.
And also, again, knowing that you're not alone in that category. So that's a really great program I'm excited about, because if you think people don't want to talk about it, but it really impacts a lot of people's lives. And a lot of what we do is that community program funding that goes out to other senior center locations. We have speakers that'll come to any group, Lions Club or veterans or a school program, wherever you'd like us to come. We'd love to come and speak on any different topic. We talked about the M teams, and we are definitely always looking for volunteers. We need volunteers to teach those health education programs. It's free training to go through all of that. We need people to be volunteers to do that Medicare education and training, and that's training. That's a little bit more intense for the Medicare training. The Senior Medicare Patrol is a little bit easier, but it's still great information about, you learn so much about Medicare.
And you provide the training for people who will be able to go out and do that.
Yep. And then again, the board and the advisory. So there's so many ways that we would love to have people that are interested in working with us to help us get the word out and to help other people. And then those other items are kind of to the point that the no wrong door philosophy is that however you get to us is fine. And we will make sure that we help you. So even if you call with some program or a question that maybe isn't a program that we manage, we're going to help you get to the right place that helps you with that. Yep. And then highlighting that we've been doing this for 50 years, and we have a great Aging CT Summit that's coming up on November 19th. That's going to be at the AquaTurf in Plantsville.
Yes, I went to that one last year.
Yeah. And this year we're going to be focusing on some of those tremendous needs that are still here. The transportation, housing, financial security are really issues that we want to be able to continue to make impact on, especially as we're challenged with that loss of ARPA funding. So that's a great thing. The 800 number, the 1-800-994-9422. will get you to whatever agency on aging covers probably where you're calling from.
Covers your area.
So that's our 800 number across the state, and it
So if
typically
you call that,
right
and
now
you live in Norwich, they'll get you to you.
exactly.
Okay.
But what we find is sometimes, somebody's cell phone was from some other place, and
Yeah.
but we all know each other, and we'll get you to the right place.
Okay.
Yeah, and then last but not least, this is my wrap-up side. But aging is so personal because those, some of the cases that we were talking about, each one is just
Right.
so nuanced
Everything
with
is
what people
unique.
need.
Right,
Yeah, and we
right.
try to keep track of some of those special stories for
Right,
people, and we have
yeah.
our QR code there too if anybody wants to
So
connect to our
I'm just,
website.
I know you've covered so much, and I'm just looking at this. There are programs services for the blind.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about disability resources. Connect to Work project allows individuals who receive Social Security to better understand the impact returning to work will have on them. Long-term care help, the respite care program, the Tech Act program increases independence, improves the lives of people with disabilities by giving them assistance to technology for their work in the school. Hard of hearing counseling, deaf counseling, disability, grandparents we talked about, independent living program, how you are able to do that with significant help with your disabilities. LGBTQ resources for older adults who are LGBTQ. I mean, it goes on and on, Alison. Chronic diseases self-management program, National Family Caregiver Support. You talked about that. So I think that's important. There's one program where there has to be a dementia diagnosis, and there's another program where there does not. It's just aging, and you need family support.
And we'll help you
caregivers.
figure that out. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times it's somebody saying, I need help.
Right.
And we just
right.
figure out how do you
Older
need the
worker
help and where can we
program. You can
get
get
the help.
on the job. You can work. You can continue to work and get supports. I mean, it goes on and on. You talked about nutrition, veterans, vocational rehabilitation, and so on. I mean, the breadth of the amount of help that you're providing is just enormous. And we need to get there are people out there falling through the cracks who don't know about it and need the services. So let's just finish up by telling us, what are your goals and promises and goals, your mission for this coming year, now that you've had 50 years, you're into the 51st year of this agency.
Yep. Well, I think it is really being a voice for the needs of the aging population in Connecticut, because we are hearing a lot of these stories from people. We really would like more people to connect with us, to tell us their story, to connect to these services and help. It's sometimes we say that's a double-edged sword because we only have so much funding, but it doesn't cost anything to talk to
Well, you can
somebody
always refer
or to
to
help
other
them to other
agencies
things,
that
right?
may have
and
the
that's
funding.
and that's so it really depends on what people are looking for and need. But that helps us to also advocate for those challenges in transportation and housing, in nutrition funding, and all of those things, or not understanding their Medicare, or making what should Medicare cover or not cover more of, and how does the state play into it, and the impact of caregiving on people. So we want more people to connect with us. We want to help more people. We want to be here to be the resource that we can for them to continue to age with dignity in their community. We really want people to live a happy, healthy life for a long time.
Right, aging with dignity.
Yes.
And getting all the help from the community that you can, that's available to you. Very important. Okay, so thank you so much to Alison Dvorak.
Yep, Dvorak.
And senior resources in our community. We happen to be right here in Norwich, but again, that doesn't mean there aren't agencies and availabilities all over, no matter where you live. And again, we're stressing financial resources doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be eligible for a program. It's very, very important to know that. There are so many programs where financial resources don't necessarily count. And it doesn't matter what age you are, because you're going to have an aging parent, grandparent, friend, uncle, teacher, and you want to support them. So you should know what services are available to them so you can help. And it's also a way to get a head start on your life, because you're getting older no matter what you think. Okay. So thank you so much, Alison. We'll see everybody next time on Talk Back. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that was